welcome to AWS On Air.
I told you, I'm excited about this.
We want to help you see the things that are new and launching.
We are throwing you into the deep end.
Day 10.
Let's do it.
Hey, what is up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of AWS On Air. It's Friday, and depending on what side of the country you're on, of the US, it might be nearing the end of your day, or it might be a great lunchtime. And so we are glad you're here with us for a little bit about AWS, some news, some launches, some features, this week, some customer stories. And so welcome everyone. Hey, my name is Jeff Marushak. I'm a senior solutions architect on our National Defense Air Force team. And today I am joined by my really good friend, Adrian. Adrian, say hello.
Hey everyone, my name is Adrian San Miguel. I'm a principal enterprise architect here at AWS, working with our tech partners, and much like Jeff, a bit of a shoe aficionado. I spy a lot of really interesting things there in the background. I've got the Paris Wood cements on. I think I saw some Nico brick by bricks there a little bit ago, but hey man, we're not here to talk about shoes. We're here to talk about you, developers.
There they are. There they are.
You can see right chime in, let us know where you're coming from. But it's super important to note that if this is your first time, welcome. Glad that you're here. To note, AWS On Air is a show for you. We work with you via survey, via feedback to provide you with the type of content that you want to see and encourage you to be as interactive as possible. That way, if we're on the mark, great, we do more of it. If we're off, we go and do a little bit better. Today, I'm really happy to say that we're being advertised on the US Hero, the Canada Hero, and dev.to. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And the idea here is as we go along, you have any questions, throw them in the chat. We're going to be monitoring Twitch. We're going to be monitoring LinkedIn, YouTube, just about everything. So if something comes in, we want to see it. We want to address it. Jeff, what are you thinking about right now?
Well, you know what? My last probably month or so, I mean, it's actually been the last kind of 2 years off, I mean, generally, but it's really accelerated these last, like month or two. Mm-hmm. And it's been, I mean, I know we've been saying this, all that these are two favorite letters, AI. But you know what? There's a lot of new tools coming out. And it's funny. I tell people this all the time that it's remarkable. As long as I've been in IT, nothing has accelerated so fast than what's happening in AI right now. Because I tell folks that as an AI professional, I've been in IT for over 20 years. And it's like, you kind of get used to learning a tool. And it's like, oh, this new tool, this is a really good tool that came out. And then you kind of focus and you learn how to use that tool to do something. And we're changing to these tools are coming out that do exactly what we want. And for seasoned IT professionals, I think sometimes it's a little hard for us to change the way we think. Like, I got to learn how this tool works. No, you got to tell the tool to do what you need to do. And so that's what I've been playing with. We've gotten some new tools as employees here that we've been playing with. We hear a lot about AI assistants. Been playing with a command line AI assistant, which is really fun. Can really play with your file system and do things, from the command line. It's really cool. But that's kind of what this episode is all about today. We're going to be talking about some AI assistants that we're going to announce here. But that's what I've been up to. Adrian, what have you been up to?
More or less the same. A little on the anticlimactic side. I've done a little bit of vibe coding here and there. Got to assist on some really cool initiatives that we're working on and can't wait to talk about at reInvent that are going to be pretty delightful if you're in the partner technology space, I think. Very proud of the work my team and I have put forth on this. It was kind of a challenge, but we were able to scrap together and get it done. At this point, you have to use the tools that you have, and mercifully, we were fortunate enough to have a bevy of different AI tools to help us speed things along, do those code reviews, and help us figure out exactly where the stance that things were broken. But this is just a small piece of what these things can actually do for you. And I think it might be time to bring on our first guest and really understand exactly what it is that's going on and what and how specifically for the specific problem that you as either business persona or tech persona are running into, how you can start incorporating these things into your workflows to make your life easier.
Yeah, that sounds good, Adrian. So with that, let's make a little shout out to our producer Nick. Hey, let's bring on our first guest.
Yes, please.
I told you I'm excited about this.
Francois, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me. Really glad to be here.
Cool. So let's start. Let's set the stage. First, introduce yourself. Tell our viewers what you do, and then what are you here to talk about?
Sure. My name is François Gast. I'm a product manager on the Amazon Quick Suite service team. And today I'm here to introduce the service we launched not long ago, first on October 9th, precisely. And we have, great stories with customers. So here I joined today to kind of tell you more about Amazon Quick Suite, what it does, and why it's a very special tool that Amazon has broadly embraced since we launched.
That's fantastic, Francois. And it's kind of a bit of an understatement. You mentioned embrace, and I know the answer to this, but to benefit chat and anybody that's watching, can you elaborate on exactly what that means on embracing it before we go ahead and do the release?
Yeah, sure. Well, every service we launch is different at Amazon. I think what's sometimes quite specific is how we actually get to the rollout, right? The GA when we go live with the tool. There's few tools like Amazon Quick Suite where before we release the tool to the public, we actually had a corporate-wide release. So we had over 250,000 people at Amazon having broad access to Amazon Quick Suite. So it was very exciting to get the feedback and see all those stories flowing in as we were finalizing the tool for the general release. So extremely exciting to now talk about the stories and showcase a little bit what Quick Suite can do for you.
Awesome.
Yeah. So Francois, I've been playing with Quick Suite as well, and I find it interesting to kind of determine kind of maybe what this tool might do better than this other tool that I'm doing or that I'm using. But let's start there. Well, let's just start why Quick Suite? Tell us a little bit about it. What's it aimed for? And then maybe we can talk about what I've been playing with recently. But why don't you start off?
Sure. Well, it's quite interesting because I think in the AI space, there's very few companies like Amazon that have invested in all those different levels in the AI story. From the Trainian ships to Bedrock to our own model with Nova. And so as we move up the stack, we still have a very full story for developers. And I think we reached that point where we're ready to talk more to business users and really start to dive into what they need to do their job and how can we help them being more productive in their day-to-day work. So that's really what the product is about. It's making sure that as we start looking at our customers, we don't talk just to their IT team and their developers, but we also are looking at the line of business, what kind of work they do, and how can AI help them. And that's a complex question in itself because we're not doing one thing all day, every day, right? We do a lot of different things from, the traditional Q&A with AI is well known, but we do a lot more complex things like, doing some research, trying to automate some of the administration we do on a day-to-day basis, doing some reporting as well. So this is kind of the service that we are releasing that we hope and believe that our customers will find tremendous value in empowering those business users with.
Something you mentioned, Francois, and I kind of want to double click on it. I'm sure you got a demo that we'd love to see. Before we get there, you said something very specific in wanting to go directly to the business user instead of the dev or the IT user. Not that there's anything wrong with these folks using these tools, but it's very different to get the business over the hump to want to start leveraging these things, to kind of change the workflow that has worked 10, 20, 50 years, to really go about and approach and think about it in a different way that potentially could be, hey, you have a problem with generating invoicing from pulling from 50 different disparate systems. We can drop that down from 8 weeks to 4 days if you go about it XYZ. that is powerful. That's a real story that can be talked about to the individual value to the business. Was that something that was kind of driving you in this direction to go and build this?
Yes, absolutely. And I think more broadly, we do believe that the concept of applications and productivity in a very traditional sense used to be about building applications for solving those business problems that those users face day to day. I think what changes the game with AI is that we see now a bar that's much higher to what should actually be an application, because they can do so much with AI without having to actually throw a single line of code to help them along the way. So, but yeah, you're right. I do have like a little presentation today, so if I can jump into it now, unless you guys have any other questions for me.
Well, I just wanted to add one thing to build on what Adrian and you were talking about. I think also that there's like a barrier, like a mental barrier of entry for a lot of people that think I'm not a developer, so I'm never going to be able to figure out how to do this better. And that's the biggest thing with AI, is that it's lowering that barrier of entry and allowing people with good ideas to very easily solve problems. And that's definitely what QuickSuite is allowing me to do. I have a computer science degree, but I don't like developing, so I'm not good at it. But I understand what a bubble sort is, so going to natural language to solve these problems, I think it's just enabling so many more people to solve these problems. So yeah, let's see what you got, Francois.
Sure. Yeah, let's dive in. All right, so you're looking at my landing screen when I'm connecting to Amazon QuickSuite. And right off the bat, you can see it's fairly simple, but under the hood, it is packed with capabilities. If I click on that Explore pill on the side, I'm going to display some of those core capabilities. When we think about how we work today, there's a lot of things that revolve around, getting answers to questions that are being asked to us, but also, reporting on activities, setting up data to our leaders, researching, some new project. So all of these capabilities you see on the left are here to kind of help us deliver on those several points. On the left-hand side, you can see we have this concept of chat agents, which are going to be your specific, and we think about it this way, right? Like it's kind of like we're here to help you with companions, if you will, that are going to take on some of the duties that is really not adding much to your day and is time consuming. So chat agents are AI bots, if you will, that can be equipped with specific knowledge bases and have access to specific services. And those can be, AWS services, but they can be third-party services. So we'll see that in a second, and empower those agents to act on your behalf.
So Francois, let me get this straight. So me as a solutions architect, maybe I can have one chat agent kind of populated or integrated with some AWS documentation, and maybe that would be like my customer engagement agent. But also, if I wanted another one that just looked up Christmas movies, like at any time, like I would be able to keep them separated and kind of know when to use which one, right?
Yes, exactly. And out of when you deploy Amazon QuickSuite, all your users are getting My Assistant, which is the default chat agent that comes out of the box. But if I click on this drop down, you'll see that I have several agents here that can be selected. So if I have a question, that agent will have all the context it needs to answer my question. I'm not looking for an answer from just the knowledge of the model. I'm looking for an answer from like a particular knowledge base and maybe a specific tool that's tied to it.
So you're digging in to make sure that you're selecting the correct persona to answer the right thing, filtered down to the right bit of information to ensure that when you do ask the question, you're not getting the extraneous noise that could be either prone to hallucination or really just be so far off the mark it's not really helpful.
Exactly. So I'll give you an example. Say I'm a sales manager and I work for a data center organization. If I am getting ready for a meeting I have with a customer, I can simply just say, for instance, tell me about United. Well, I'll still specify. Tell me about my account, United Oil. And just by asking that question, AI is going to, instead of just like going on the internet and try to fetch me information that's publicly available, you can see that it's actually first looking through those resources it has access to. And it identified Salesforce as potentially a place where that information might exist. It's also looking into documents that were uploaded directly into that chat agent. So it can carry that data with it as it tries to answer my questions. But now that it identified Salesforce, it's going to start interacting with it. And as a business user, really, this is going to save me time, because now I don't have to like go into Salesforce, try to grab a summary of the account. I can get this straight from Amazon Quick Suite, which is not to say that you shouldn't go into Salesforce. You definitely should if you have to work in there for a while. But if I'm just looking for some quick information, this is going to be helpful enough for me.
Yeah, this certainly solves the biggest problem that all developers, and certainly just plain old SAs like myself and Jeff, where you're hopping in between different windows and different apps and different things. And number one thing that you lose, aside from time, productivity, is context. And you forget the thing and what you were doing, specific workflow and how it applies. And this bypasses all of that in a click. This is pretty remarkable.
Exactly. And if you're worried about the, where the data come from, how accurate it is, you can see here that we actually fetched it from Salesforce. We expose the sources. We try to make it as transparent as possible.
Yeah,
but the story.
I think that's a key point, is that we think of generative AI, and I know we haven't been specifically saying generative AI here. We're talking kind of an agent type of thing. But when you say, show me my oil account, it's not kind of generating stuff out of thin air. It's using the integration into Salesforce. So it really doesn't have like, what are my sales from last month on my account? It knows to go to Salesforce. That data is there. It's going to be hard for it to hallucinate that stuff, because it's pulling that data versus letting it kind of try to figure out that stuff. And that's kind of where you can have dangers with hallucinations. Am I on this right page there?
Yes, I think this is where we're going to see like a much higher quality of responses from AI, because it no longer relies just on its model. It can prioritize information based on what it has been configured with. So in this example, we just fetch some simple information about United Oil, and these are obviously, this is fictitious account information. We're not revealing anything here, but it doesn't stop there, right? Like if I wanted to drill down, do some follow up, it can still do that while retaining that context. So if I want to see if there's like any open issues that belong to this customer, I can just simply ask that, and then let AI find where that information might reside. It might exist in Salesforce, but it could be in a tool like ServiceNow. It could exist in Atlassian, whether it's in Jira or any other of their tools. But here you can see that the quality of the response is extremely precise. Like there's no hallucination there. It's all behind the scene, leveraging APIs that are fetching data for us.
Hey, Francois, we got a question from the chat real quick from Pengol. If we can bring that up, how would a hypothetical solutions architect verify a piece of information to be correct out of this? Is the intuition that I think click on sources and then go check it down to ensure that there's still human on the loop to put eyeballs and be that extra layer of security? Is that the idea?
Yeah, so and obviously we are getting the information here with a source. It would depend where the information is coming from. If it's an information that exists, for instance, in a document that was uploaded to a chat agent, it would be able to self-check itself. So you could ask the chat. You could even build a small process for this with natural language and just invoke it whenever you get like an answer that you want to double check. But it's kind of dependent on that. Otherwise, you can invoke another agent to kind of like fact check what the first agent did. So aside from the manual checking, obviously. But yeah, good question.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, thank you. That's kind of took a different turn. Put the agent to the agent, and then you have to monitor the agent that's watching the agent.
Yeah.
Put it in a rat hole.
I heard you like agents.
Yeah.
Put an agent in an agent.
For real, man. Doing a quick time check. We're running pretty close to the end of the segment, Francois.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you wanted to show us before we start to wrap?
Yeah, so look, I think what's important here is at the end of the day, those type of interaction, and I could go on and show you how to generate a checklist to troubleshoot those issues based on the corporate knowledge that we have here. The idea here is that you would be able, for instance, to encapsulate this entire interaction you have with AI by generating a flow out of it. Once you do that, AI kind of like try to understand what you were trying to do, and then it will generate a process that, while that first interaction saved me maybe 30 minutes if I had to run down through this entire demonstration where we kind of like generate those troubleshooting steps we want to forward to the customer. It's this ability of connecting to all the services to interact with tools like Outlook or Slack that can absolutely be encapsulated here. And you can see next time I want to do that, say I have another customer meeting tomorrow, I can simply switch from editor mode to run mode and just have provide the name of the account and then let AI rerun the exact same interaction, except this time I don't have to explain all the things I want to do. So I did have an example of that for United Oil and Gas account where we fetch all the relevant information, we get all the open issues, and then we figure out a checklist of things to do, the step-by-step procedures, and then we can Slack those instructions, for instance, here in one click. So you can see it's still very much a human in the loop type of interaction, which was very important to our customers.
Awesome. Francois, real quick, we're at about 2 minutes, and we got a really good question that came in from RT26, asking for a bit more information on integration with other systems. I know we're kind of running low on time, but maybe there's a link that we could drop to point folks to where they can learn about the different connectors and what they could potentially do with it.
Yes, absolutely. There's roughly 50 connectors that you can use, and we're expanding that list obviously because we understand that for our customers the ease of connectivity is going to be number one priority to get to their data. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll leave you with just some food for thought because it's been kind of like the darling of our customers. Research has been a major feature of Amazon Quick Suite where folks can get in and request AI to work for 20 minutes to 2 hours on complex topics and get those elaborated reports that includes charts. Every data point is backed by a reference, and we've been working tirelessly on improving this capability to the point where it can be invoked by other tools in Amazon Quick Suite like flows.
Francois, really quick, I just want to I think when you say research, I think a lot of people would just think, oh, let's just tell Q to go search the web. Can you really go into detail what is different about research and what Q
yes
so does differently for research?
Right. So research isn't simply just sending AI on the web to fetch all the information you need. You can actually upload files or even connect to documents that you might have, corporate databases and knowledges that you have. We use that concept of spaces where you can connect, dashboards, databases, tools like Asana, for example. And you can just point at that space and say, go fetch all the data that's relevant for this research into those data sets. And it's quite interesting because it really raised the quality again of and the relevancy of the answers that you're getting from from AI.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Francois. We're going to drop some links in the chat, folks, to give you some places, a little bit of homework to go learn a little bit more, and encourage you to please go ahead and do so. And really, really appreciate you coming on and educating us here, Francois.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.
Adrian's pretty neat. I could tell our viewers the one thing, this is not research, it's not rocket science, but with Quick Suite on my work laptop, I can tell it, hey, look at on Friday evening, actually, when I'm done with this, what I will do, I'll say, hey, go check out my Monday calendar and Slack it to me. That way I can pull up Slack all weekend and see what my first meeting is on Monday and not have to go log in or all, stuff like that. Now that doesn't seem like it's, like rocket science or anything, but that saves me a lot of time and it's really quick. Takes me 30 seconds to do. So that's kind of like an easy example. So
Yeah, for sure. I can't wait to start throwing some stuff at it and doing a bunch of research that I just got tasked with yesterday.
Yeah.
About 4 o'clock. It's like, hey, starting on Monday, I need you to do this. I'm like, great. I don't even know where to start, but now
No,
at least I know I
that's a
can
really
focus.
good point. How much stuff do you get assigned right before you sign off on Friday and you totally forget it on Monday? You're absolutely right.
I jotted it down. I've got a reminder in Slack to tell me, hey, go do this and go start using QuickSuite. But enough about that. Chat, everyone, thank you so much again for joining us. We're going to drop a link in the chat for our survey. And please bear in mind, first 50 folks that fill out the survey and make sure that you have a builder's ID to go ahead and do so. We're going to give you some AWS credits for your time and for your feedback, and encourage you, please, even if the credits are no longer there, please provide your feedback. Let us know how we're doing and what you want to see more of, so we can go about and meet you where you need to be. Jeff, what do we got next?
Well, we got another Jeff coming up, and we have news with Jeff Barr. So, Nick, let's go ahead and run that and bring on Jeff.
The Eagle has landed.
Jeff Barr, how's it going, man?
Adrian and Jeff, good to see you both. Doing really good here in Seattle.
I like the cars in the background. You know, it's the Brazil Grand Prix right now. They just finished the sprint quali not too long ago. You got me in the mood for some racing, man.
Indeed, good idea. So, let's see, what's new?
Well, lots of things I hear. You know, I personally have been kind of rolling my sleeves back up and having a bit of a developer, mucking through Java and Flink, and it's been interesting times. You know, throwing AI tools at it, kind of knocking the rust off. So that's definitely new.
Fun. I actually had a bunch of really good travel earlier, or late last month, actually. I went to China. I went to Shenzhen and Shanghai, talked to developers there. It was really fun, actually, to get there. And it's fascinating that wherever you go around the world, the developers all actually, like, they're kind of all, I don't want to say all the same, but they have the same basic, like, thought patterns and ideas. And there's, like, this global developer, like, I don't want to say meme, but there's, like, you always know a developer when you meet one. How about that? Like, they do the same kinds of things, and they love to build stuff. They love new cool things. They love Bedrock, like on my shirt. Got really, like, good feedback on that. Love to build with AI and building agents and using Kiro. So always, like, so amazing that you get halfway around the world and you think, okay, well, I always think adapting to local culture is part of what you want to do, but developers, there's kind of global developer culture, which is pretty neat.
So, Jeff, I got a question. As you talk to all these developers, do you think, you just said that they're kind of embracing, you know, AI coding and stuff? Do you think that it's allowing them to kind of expand their minds already, like even more, like to do more? Or is it, you know, we always kind of say, I'm a developer, I'm lazy. And, you know, that's a good thing because you develop to be lazy. That's kind of the point. So which way is it going with the AI code assistance?
So I'm actually seeing it's magnifying their ambition, but in a really interesting way. Like, they certainly see it in terms of just sheer productivity gains, and they get those. But the more interesting thing I'm seeing is, I think we've all as developers thought, well, there's a thing I'd love to build, and you see your way clear to do most of it. But there's some part somewhere along the way you're thinking, I don't actually have a clue how to do that, and I'm not sure I can even figure out how to do that. And the AI tools actually help them to jump that part and, like, fill in a blank in their knowledge in a sense. Like, there's a skill that they're like, okay, I can do everything, but I don't know how to do this particular, like, math or trig or geometric algorithm or something. They can just ask the AI and, like, get it. So there's definitely this, I don't know, like, deep understanding at this point of AI makes good developers even better. And it's not a substitute for experience. The better you are as a dev, the better you're going to get with AI. But also, if there's some kind of just thing you don't know how to do, just don't let that stop you from getting started.
Yeah, I definitely can empathize with that. Knocking the rust off. I remember staring at the CLI. I'm like, oh man, how do I even go about doing this? I know nothing about building these type of clusters. I know nothing about setting the ideal JVM in this situation. So I asked the agent, hey, you know, what's the best way to go about doing this? And little by little, the confidence started building up. And yeah, it definitely opens up a world of possibilities. You know?
It sure does.
The one thing I've noticed, and so as I've been kind of doing the same thing, like paying attention to what the agent is doing pays dividends in full because I've actually learned some cool things from the AI being wrong, and I question it. I'm like, wait, you said this, and it's actually this, and they're like, oh, of course, we always see you're absolutely right. Thank you, thank you for correcting me. But I actually did learn it because the AI was wrong. So I tell people, pay attention. I see some people just let an agent go, like build this website, and that is good for some things. But if you're going to help yourself learn more, I think learning from an AI agent is very valuable.
This is 100% in line with what I have been telling developers all year. I think I've been in 12 countries this year speaking to developers. And I tell them a couple different things. First, I do say that when you commit your code, it's your name on the commit. It's not your AI's name, and that you are still responsible for the code. But I also tell them that you've probably been trained really well to write code. And you've probably been trained to start with your blank piece of paper or your blank screen and fill it up with code. Still a really good skill, but an ever increasingly important skill is reading code, and especially reading code written by your tools. And you might spend less time writing, but you need to balance that off with, I need to really know, not just know what the AI did, but say, wow, I didn't even think about that tool or technology or algorithm or data structure or data type, and say, let me use the fact that it was used here as a nice starting point to learn a little bit more.
Yeah, Jeff, that's fantastic. I mean, it's a good tangent. What else have you got for us? What else is new?
Let's see. I got a couple cool things. Okay, so the first one is called S3 conditional write on copy, and I love this idea of the chocolate and the peanut butter features, where we've got two cool features and they now work together. So the first is the existing S3 conditional writes, and the idea here is it only allows a write under certain conditions. Like it could be, does the destination object exist or not exist? Has the source object been modified with respect to the destination? Has the content changed? Is there compliance with certain bucket level policies? So that's the first cool feature we already have. The second one is this function called copy object that copies objects between buckets of either general purpose or directory type. And that can be either within a region, or you can use multi-region access points and use those together. But the cool thing is now when you do copy object, you can actually request conditional writes inside the scope of that. So you can now conditionally copy objects from bucket to bucket. So you effectively like a kind of a conditional backup. You can coordinate simultaneous writes. You can make sure you don't accidentally overwrite if you have several writers going to the same bucket. So kind of an example. So suppose I had like a bucket full of like movies, and maybe I had Elf, and maybe I had Polar Express in there.
Gotcha.
Or no, maybe actually I'd already backed up Elf, and then I'm like, okay, well, I need to do a second backup because I just added Polar Express. The second backup will only back up Polar Express because they're like, we only need one copy of Will Ferrell in there, so we're good.
Yeah, one's enough.
One is enough. Exactly. So that's how conditional write works, and we'll drop a link to the what's new for that. The other one is actually really, really slick. I think step functions are one of the more really like super powerful, but maybe not fully understood parts of AWS. The idea that you can orchestrate multiple different cool things step by step with parallelism and distributed map and conditions and loops and logic. So step function's been around for quite a while, and customers use it. What we've added is an actual dashboard that gives you this nice view of what your step functions are doing. So you can see the number of state machines you have, how many activities are running, the number of open executions. It has some time-based stats like the number of open executions over time, the number of map runs over time, all neat. And then if you're a high volume user and you're pushing step functions pretty hard, you can actually see the consumption metrics for each of the APIs, and you can see how where those sit with respect to your account quotas. So more data and more insights.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah. Got time for one more?
I think we do.
Yeah. Okay. The third one, and to me, sometimes these look a little small and simple compared to like Quick Suite, but each these things makes AWS a little more powerful, a little bit easier to use. And I certainly appreciate the fact that we often launch some cool, awesome new thing, but we don't forget about it. We keep adding more and more refinements and details to it. So this is in the way of details. So these are some new metrics to make sure that you can better track performance and utilization of your EBS volumes over time. So 2 new metrics that are per minute. The first one is the average IOPS, or the IO operations per second for the volume. And the second one is the average throughput, the amount of data transferred. And both of these are measured per minute. You can get these on all the volumes that are attached to Nitro instances. One thing I did learn when I checked this out today is that it's actually not on the default monitoring tab in the EBS part of the console, but you can just go to the CloudWatch console and hunt these down and create your own dashboard with them. So that's the first part of it. But we also added 2 related checks. There's one called the volume IOPS exceeded check and the volume throughput exceeded check. So these are 0 if everything's good, or 1 if you're pushing up against the edge of how much IOPS or throughput your volume can deliver. Now, I like these because if you don't want to provision way too much, you want to have a little bit of headroom there. But at the point when you're hitting it, you absolutely want to know that your EBS volume is actually becoming your bottleneck. So having that there, you can alarm if it persists, and you can say, okay, well, I'll just add some more IOPS and maybe move to a bigger instance and maybe move some stuff around. So for example, I was looking at one of my personal volumes, and I had a bunch of stuff all in the, like, basically in my home directory. I had like database tables, some image processing things I run, and all the other stuff in just one place. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of like pushing that one volume pretty hard. And then I moved some of the high volume stuff onto a different small EBS volume, kept the home stuff on a place all by itself. And I literally called that Home Alone. So I thought that was kind of a cool way to use this.
Old Linux administration trips never die hard. Thank you.
They never do. Oh, man.
Close and warm in my heart as an old storage guy. Thank you for doing that.
It was almost like a miracle, if you want to think about it, really.
Well, always a good idea to knock the gremlins out, I'd say. Jeff.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Really frosty in here.
Yeah, likewise, Jeff. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, that's what I got for today. Good to see you all. I will be traveling again for our next show, but if we've got any of our viewers that are going to be at reInvent, would love to actually meet you in person and say hello.
Yes, I'll be there. Adrian, sounds like you're going to be there. So yeah, anyone, let us know in the comments if you're coming out, and we'd love to see you.
Amazing. Awesome. See y'all later.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
The storage that harkens back to my heart. I mean, selfishly, I can't count the number of times in the last year I've been tapped either through the core compute technical feedback community we have, or storage, or migration, or something, and it's always the same thing. My SQL server is slow, and this is bad. Sight unseen, I already know what it is. It's IO, and I developed over the years a really janky set of tools by PowerShell. Not that PowerShell is janky, just the way that I built it, because I don't know what I'm doing. It actually goes out and it plots out very simply to say, hey, you're exhausted here, you're exhausted here. So this actually replacing that is a lot more intuitive, because to what Jeff mentioned, you can trap on it and alarm on it, but also to alarm. We do still have that survey up. So please, folks, go out and fill that out as you have the opportunity to do so. Let us know how we're doing. Feedback is a gift, good, bad, and different. We'd love to hear about it. Let us know what you want to see more of, less of. And if there's a particular topic that you want covered, let us know. We'll see what we can do about it.
Cool. Well, so Adrian, we talked about QuickSuite and what it is, agents, maybe a little bit more tailored towards the business side, non-developers could kind of help with that everyday work. So that was kind of like talking about the product itself. So this episode's cool because next we're going to bring on a customer who was part of the early beta rollout of QuickSuite, 3M, and we're going to talk to see, what 3M is using QuickSuite for. So I think without further ado, let's bring on our next guest.
Yeah, let's bring him on.
Hey, hi everyone.
Ashish, how are you?
Doing well. How about you guys?
Fantastic.
Very good, very good. I was going to say, I kind of set you up. So why don't you tell our viewers who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into a little bit of the quick suite information after that.
Sure. Yeah. Means first of all, thanks for the invitation. Thanks for giving this platform to come and tell our story, 3M story. My role is Director of AI Engineering for 3M. Means what I do basically, I lead a bunch of smart problem solvers and builders, right, to continuously use tools to solve our business problems. Yeah. So it's a fun every day.
I really appreciate the way that you phrase that. Most engineering folks would not refer to their their individual reports as not as more engineering, more on the techie side. But I like the way you approach it in problem solving, because at the end of the day, that's really what we're here for. And it's kind of lost in a lot of the instances that being in tech, it's really to better serve and solve business problems. And there's a lot of that lost along the way.
Yep. Fully agree.
So she's, I mean, you set the stage with solving problems. Let's talk about, how you kind of heard about Quick Suite, kind of the origin stories, because you are involved in the early beta release of it. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will a little bit take you back into our journey, right? So where do we started? Because typically we see the tools, product, but there is a lot goes into the background and the prep. So what I'm going to tell today about, our story, specifically working on one of our business problem. So this is really focused on improving the productivity and efficiency of our sales representatives, right? So we have thousands of sales reps worldwide who works very closely with our customers. And our goal was really to how do we make them more productive? They need to do a lot of administrative tasks in day to day, but their primary job is really to work as close as with the customers, help customers with solving their problems.
Yeah, and
So that's
I can imagine 3M. I know 3M has a lot of products too. So I mean, it's not just like one thing. There's a ton of 3M products out there. So
absolutely. I mean, 3M people do ask. Even my family, they ask like, "Hey, what do you guys make? I see your name everywhere." And they say like, "We make a lot of stuff, right?" There is a very popular saying in 3M, and we are very proud of that. That in this civilization, wherever you stand, you will find a 3M product somewhere within the 10 meters of the range, right? Whether it's a phone, TV, watch, in a car, you are on a plane, there is 3M product somewhere. So yeah, so we have thousands and thousands of products goes around, and from that perspective, you can understand, the overall of the complexity of our processes, our sales process, and so on. So this whole idea, initiated in the Q1. We have actually a big 3M strategy in terms of driving commercial excellence. So this is really tied up with that. So it's a very focused on with our top strategy. And this original idea started in Q1, like how we can utilize AI to make our sales reps more productive, focus, keep them in the workflow, right? Because all those bunch of AI capabilities coming left, right, how do we keep them concentrated, focus on their core? So that's what we really looked into. We had like a couple of, we did some discovery, more process mapping, what their whole persona is all about, right? So understanding their persona first. It's not like, hey, we have a cool tool, cool stuff. Let's try to figure out, solve your problem. So we really did that work. We even did some bake-off, right? So a couple of other tools available across. So we did some bake-off and comparison, and it's like what fits well. And this is where our Q3 has been primarily focused on like, okay, how do we solve this problem? And actually, I would say the right moment where the Quick Suite beta program came in.
Mm-hmm.
So we have been trying different, custom agent tools, some agents around the Salesforce, and then we were building the initial solution with Q Business. But the Quick Suite beta came at the right time. We jumped right into the beta program, and the rest is like you will see a lot of stuff today. Yeah.
Awesome, Ashish. And before we get to the stuff that we're going to see, something that's kind of nibbling at the back of my mind is every time we talk about bringing new tools, processes, things to change, you think disruption, you think interruption, you think broken workflows. How was it that you went about approaching integrating Quick Suite with what you had existing within the enterprise without really bothering anybody? Because I'm sure that that's something that's of particular interest to folks.
Right. So one of the, I would say the challenge or the condition of this solution was primarily as our sales reps, they work in mostly in Salesforce and a couple of collaboration tools. So one of the key challenge was like, how do we bring this solution into their close to their workflow, and without having them switching multiple different windows and doing the swivel chairs and so on. So this is where the quick suite fits right into it, and especially I will tell you and show you also the power of the browser extension, which really takes the AI to where you are. So without even taking our sales reps anywhere, so they are in Salesforce browser window. You just pop up the the browser extension for quick suite, and that becomes your window to multiple different things. And some of the the connectors comes out of the box. So Salesforce, SharePoint, OneDrive, seamless connection. And one of the key thing, it's it maintains the identity, authorization, access. So it saves tons of problem for the developers. Like, how do I manage all those things? And the data privacy security is really the paramount to any of the AI solutions.
Oh, awesome. Would you mind showing us what you put together so far and giving us a better visualization what it looks like? Because in my head, I've got kind of a bit of an idea what the workflow looks like, but I would love to see what it is in practice.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's dive right in.
Yeah, I think Francois kind of gave us a good overview, and this will be exciting to see what a customer actually did with this. And love to hear kind of like what things your sales folks are now doing different than they were before you were using Quick Suite. So yeah, bring this up.
Absolutely. And I will just add one comment. Like, in last 3 years of all these AI wave, the amount of tools and frameworks what's coming every day, like nowadays any new demo I see, I'm quite a skeptic, right? Because I burned my hand so many times trying every GitHub repos and so on. So that's the really key, that the solution meets your need, and this is what I'm going to show how it really fit into our specific requirements.
Okay.
So first, I will really show you the power of the browser extension here. So you can be in any window, any web page you have open there, and you can just have your browser extension installed here. You can just click and it will pop right there. So the first use case I will show you here is our sales performance coach. So in the backend, we have I can show you what the integrations we have, but basically it calls whatever the required service is to get to the right answer. And we put very simple scenario here, like I don't want to start with the prompt engineering and so on. I will just say, like, here our synthetic data which I prepared for this demo is for Mr. John Doe. I just put the name there and let's see what it comes with.
Yeah, and I assume that this is something. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just like, you're not even doing natural language. You're just like typing a name,
Yeah.
So that's you're going next level here.
And for me, the question was, I assume that this is something that's made on demand to your sales reps, that they can just jump in and go ask the question, and say, if they don't know the thing or they're curious on the process, the right way to approach it, go ask this thing.
Yep. And for this one, I will give credit to our business stakeholders, right? They kept challenging us, like, hey, I don't want to put bunch of prompts and to get started. My thing is, I'm focusing on one person or in one meeting. I just want AI to help with that coaching. So it starts with the name, right? And then I just said go ahead, and it's just going and performing all those analysis. It's calling the required services in the backend, and we have like a very defined outputs, right, which we worked in terms of the agents. And this is also fulfilling the requirements from the business, that they don't want to see tons of different variation of these output. They want to see the consistent, so they can, every time they have a different coaching session, they get the consistent outcomes here. Yeah.
I like you mentioning like the consistent outputs, and that took work and planning on your guys's part, and sounds like that was based on the requirements from business. And I think a lot of people assume that all these AI tools, you just pick a tool and it's up to you to figure out how to use it. And while that can work, I think the way you described it, you guys took a structured approach for the enterprise and said, this is the outcome we want to solve for. Let's build this AI tool for this. And just like like you said, you got the requirements from the business, and it sounds like it had a really good outcome. Instead of just giving the business, here's an AI tool, figure out how to use it.
Yeah.
You're chucking it over the fence, and that's exactly what I was going to say. It sounds like there was a really firm partnership between the tech and the business side. And as tech practitioners, that's something we take a lot for granted, and sometimes we just don't think. We just go and implement, say, here tool, go. So that's definitely something that's appreciated, and I'm sure your business partners appreciated the seat at the table and the ability to go do this stuff without having to go learn prompt engineering or some sort of programming code to be able to use the thing.
Yep. And this is a really great example of really this, what do we call co-creation with business, right? So it was like not traditional way that let's have a business requirement document and I will drop on the other side of fence to my developers. They will work 2-3 weeks and come back. It was highly iterative because with the speed what we can move in the same working session, like business is throwing things, our developers are continuously fine-tuning, refining, bringing those outputs. And that's like a big collaboration with just, it makes very fast here.
Well, it's definitely something that's I dare say underappreciated. The power of co-creation. I found myself peer programming and peer coding a couple of weeks ago with a developer on a sibling team, and it was really interesting to just be kind of two in a box on the bit with a business counterpart on the other side. And there was no delay, there was no ambivalence, there was no async communication through like a Slack. It was just real time, rapid fire. And through the use of the coding agent that I was working with, we were able to actually build to spec and go and do the thing we were trying to. And that was, it felt great on a small scale. This is something significantly larger and more complex, and definitely has a bigger impact than the little dinky thing I built. But can you let us know? This looks fantastic as far as an output. How are your folks using it, and what are the type of things that they're able to glean from it?
Yeah, so maybe I will continue with a couple of more scenarios because that really explains. So this is really focused on the coaching part, right? So think about a day in the life of a sales representative. So they do a lot of, they have targets, they have goals, they have planning, they have opportunities, pipeline, which need to work towards the target, close, and all those things. So this is all that workflow. There is a very well-defined playbook behind, right? And that's really belongs to your business, to your process. And this is where we really need that all these SMEs, insights, who are really living that day to day. So here, another one I will quickly show here is, now I will go to the native experience. I will move to customer meeting prep agent, right? Okay. So sales reps, they meet their customers, and for that, they need to do a lot of preparation. So I will just, for a quick demo purpose, I put the name here, Boeing. Let's see what it comes back with. So typically, you need to know, what are the open opportunities with that customers? What are the past sales trends? Are there open complaints and cases, right? So because you landed the customer and say, hey, you didn't fix those issues before, and then you are coming with the new stuff. So this is actually, it really goes ahead and perform all that analysis.
Yeah, and while this is baking, this kind of reminded me, and a little bit of a flashback and trauma to my early days in AWS. I'm sure you appreciate this, Jeff. Back in my day as a TAM, we had to go and do this manually through a very clunky VBS script that was Excel based, to go and scrape from a data warehouse, to kind of munch stuff, to start putting together charts, to understand the trends, to then start scraping and throw into PowerPoint. And it was a 2 to 3 week process to dump everything into an MBR, into a monthly business review. And it was just kind of silly how long it took. And then when people started using things like this, the workflow, we're dropping down to minutes, if even that long.
Well, yeah, and to build onto that, what about someone who doesn't always look up support tickets? Maybe you need to do that like every other month. You forget which ticketing system. Some corporations have many different ones. Which one do I look in? But with this, you can just natural language, look up all the open Boeing tickets, et cetera, et cetera.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. And this looks something very presentable, something that the average sales rep should be able to go through and read and understand. not in a verbose nature, because sometimes that can be lost in translation. Very succinct bullet points, like here's the top 3 or 4 things that you need to know per domain. That way, in the event that you are questioned about it, you can have an eloquent conversation about it, or at least the prompt to go have an eloquent conversation about it.
Yeah. So Ashish, I was curious, you've rolled this out to your sales force. Have you been able to measure, like, time gained, or more effective projections, or like basically what's improved since your sales team has started to use this?
Right. So we actually, the timing is this week, in fact, yesterday, we just released that, right? So in production, we did a soft launch, and now it's going through all the onboarding process and so on. So whatever the pre-work we did, it's clearly showed the benefit of, in terms of improving their day-to-day productivity. But at the same time, when our specific sales leaders, when they are utilizing it, they have done a lot of exploratory and exhaustive testing. They were like really surprised with what level of insights they can get and how to better utilize their entire sales force in terms of, like, where to focus, what are the right opportunities. So it just gives a very clarity and focus that will all convert into productivity and revenue gains and so on. But this is, I think, the step one. How do we get the right focus for our employees?
It's fantastic. Selfishly, I can think of a scenario like, say, a consulting partner or a service provider that can go through and munge all of their cases and understand, hey, what's the history or frequency of seeing this particular type of incident, and have that go through and search all these disparate systems and emails and what other data sources that you have, and be able to have that real true context of the issue, and then be able to make thoughtful, proactive recommendation to a customer or to a prospect on how you're going to go about and solve that problem. It's powerful data that is there, but it's so difficult and cumbersome to go out and get it. And now you just made it finger snap easy. This is fantastic. This is commendable.
Yeah. So Ashish, I think we're about running out of time. So what would you like to leave our viewers with, who might be interested in what 3M has done here with QuickSuite? But final thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a couple of things, like, especially with our experience of working on QuickSuite. So same thing, what we got great support from the product team, right? So they AWS product team, they really helped in from day one, like how do we go through all the beta program, and then continuously all the feedbacks which we provided was really reflected in terms of how quickly we've fix the issues and get our requirements into this. Few things we already highlighted: the collaboration with business, right? It needs to be a fusion team. It needs to be a co-creation, working together. The AI doesn't removes the point of, like, redesigning your process or the business problem domain itself. So you need to keep that in the forefront, because that's the problem you're trying to solve. Not trying to stuff agent left and right, like this can do this can do that. Another I would highlight here, agent versus AI powered workflow. I think this is, like, even kind of my nuance. I'm trying to coin this word, AI powered workflow, because the reason is we don't need dynamic agents in each and every scenarios. Yep. Sometimes what we need is very deterministic AI powered flows. So you follow 1 to 10 steps, and in the certain steps you call the AI models and LLM. And this is where the QuickSuite flow comes into the play, right? Yeah. So that gives a really deterministic out, because business, what they want: consistency, accuracy, repeatability, right? So that's a big takeaway, like in terms of agents, where you need flow, more deterministic. And then last thing I would say, what it comes really all together. So in a day-to-day developer life, right? If you think about building this as a full stack solution, so you need to think about all the front end, back end, middleware, cold stacks, like security, authentication, integration, and so on. This is saving you a bunch of that time. We didn't need to spend anything on the UI, UX, and everything. We got all out of the box. Authentication, security. First of all, our users are internally, single sign-on with the Active Directory group. Integration with the other systems like Salesforce, SharePoint, it's respected, so that the identity is cascading, and it is respecting the end user's access into the different platform. So that was one of the critical thing, because we don't want to expose all Salesforce data to all the other people. So it just respected their business roles in there. So yeah, those are the really key things. And lot of learnings came out from this, and we are really happy. Our business is really excited with this, and we have a pretty interesting, very powerful roadmap in front of us, as they are continuously discovering more and problem, right? So we just started with one or two, but there are tons of other things.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Ashish. It's been great having you on. Look forward to hearing more about the success stories that you keep running into in your use of QuickSuite, and can't wait to hear what else you get through in building.
Absolutely. Yep. It has been pleasure.
Ashish. Good to meet you.
All right, Adrian. So, it's just really nice to hear about this new product, the powerful, what QuickSuite can do, and then hear a customer testimonial about what they were able to do. And I love, me and you were vibing on the connection between IT and the business. That's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. I'm putting on the EA hat on that for sure. The enterprise architect, where you got to be able to marry the two and speak to whoever's in the room. And that's the most common thing. You talk past each other or don't talk at all. But it's super important that you try to set the time aside and figure out the mutual joint goals. Otherwise, you're just building to build and never solving any problems. Speaking of solving problems, I believe we're about to transition over to repost, aren't we?
Yeah, repost. Let's welcome in our repost fellow hosts, and they usually do a good job of tying in some recent questions related to the topics we've talked about today. So I'm really excited to see what they spin up for us. So Nick, let's bring on repost.
Man, that transition was world class. Of course, they need the Ask Jeeves of the internet to come and give the people what they want. We can talk about AI all we want, but what are the questions out there, Dalian? That's what we need to dive in. Hello, everybody. I'm the hostess with the mostest, Shay Bush, and this, of course, is Repost Live, your favorite segment on the internet. Dalian, introduce yourself to the people.
Absolutely. Hey, folks, my name is Dalian Ayekpour. I'm a senior technical account manager here at AWS and also a host of Repost Live. We're the voice of the people. We come to you with the questions that you ask here at Repost. And if you're not asking questions on Repost, now's your time to sign up.
Come on.
Go ahead, head over to repost.aws. Go ahead, accounts are free. Go ask questions away. You'll get questions answered by experts in the field. So if you've been, pondering something for a little while now, now's the time. Here's your sign to go over to Repost and get those questions answered. And to keep in the theme of today's episode, been QuickSuite heavy, and we didn't come to disappoint. As we round off this episode, we came here with the recent relevant questions that our viewers and community have on AWS Repost.
Yeah, no better time like the present. Let's take a look at some of the questions that I plucked for today. Of course, QuickSuite is all the rave, and if you're just maybe you live under a rock and you're just tuning in to today's live stream, we've covered everything from QuickSuite to a few new builder tools that you might be interested in. Of course, everybody wants to get their hands on the new agentic AI product from AWS, really your agentic companion in QuickSuite. And let's start with an easy one, Dalian. Somebody just wants to start using the product, right? Day one type of question. So I have this user who's in Luxembourg. Hello out to our global audience out in Luxembourg, who's just trying to get their hands on QuickSuite. Let's assume that, of course, it's not an IAM permissioned or they're not fired, right? They can actually get access to this. And it looks like they're having some issues. So for those who aren't aware, for new services, of course, services like QuickSuite, typically they will deploy kind of in phases for some of the components, like in this user's case where they were trying to use flows and chat and some of the specific components within QuickSuite. One of the nice tools, Dalian, that I know you and I caught, and I believe Jeff mentioned a little bit earlier. I know publicly.
Yeah, he didn't call it out on this episode, but if you follow him on LinkedIn, he's got quite the following base there. And if you're plugged in there, he did call out this new tool, which makes it it's never been easier to find out which
Seriously.
features and services are in the regions that you're working in than now. So Jay, take us away and walk us through this new tool
Yeah.
that you're
Yeah, yeah,
sharing.
yeah. If you don't follow Jeff on LinkedIn, then shame on you. It's definitely where I get most of my news these days. But this builder tool I think is super cool. It definitely would help this repost user who was just trying to use functionality within Quick Suite like flows and chat. Well, we'll drop the link in the chat, but you can use this builder tool to effectively evaluate what services, features, API operations, etc., are available globally. So whatever region you call home today, you can leverage this tool. And so for our user here on Repost, you can just quickly filter for a Quick Suite. You can look for things like flows. I shouldn't default to US East My Home. I should go to places like Frankfurt or Spain, right? And so you can see certain aspects of this are slowly kind of rolling out globally, but this can be your one-stop shop to get that information. Or, of course, our handy-dandy AI agent can also help you if you post on Repost.
Yeah, so for those folks out in Luxembourg, it seems like some of the functionality of Quick Suite, like I said, like Jay mentioned, we do a phased approach as we roll out to different regions. So just give it a little bit of time. You'll likely get those feature sets in due pace. So just be a little patient there. But this is a great tool to keep up to date with when that does come available.
Yeah, I do a lot of quick site development and specifically using the SDK. I'm always poking around to see what I can do in other regions. So just basic things like, getting embed URLs or like some of these functionalities that I use quite often. I'm always kind of poking around out here. As I was using this tool, I came across another question around the new kind of chat agent within Quick Suite. And this particular user, CDS Global, was really just looking to use that chat agent in kind of within some of their other maybe IT assets, like a website or something like that. And it kind of got me thinking about maybe some future announcements that I'm really hoping we make around embedded experiences, right? Taking some of the components that maybe some existing like quick site users use today, but maybe you're using this chat functionality like CDS Global and you're just like, hey, this is cool. I've developed this agent, which, has access to all my enterprise data, but how can I get it into some of my IT systems so that it looks and feels like every other IT asset at, cdsglobal.com or whatever, So really excited for that. The agent kind of went through some of the existing functionality that you might be able to use with iframes and stuff like that. But I think the crux of this might be in some of the embedded functionality that we don't quite support, but fingers crossed for reInvent. You and I will be there, Dalian. Maybe we'll break this live on air.
I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully, at reInvent, we do a lot of releases, a lot of breaking news. So definitely make sure to tune into, if you're not going in person, which if you are, we'd love to meet up with you there. So try to swing by the Lightning Theaters, as that's where we'll be hosting. But if you're not going to be at reInvent, no, not everyone can be in Vegas for that 1 week. But make sure to tune into the live streams that are going on through that week.
Oh, yeah.
So we also make some appearances there, and as well as the on-air team. But to that question, right? So also wanted to touch on, if you are currently looking for functionality that's more externally facing, right? So it sounded like the user wanted to create a chat bot or an experience for their website. Although it's not currently supported by Quick Suite, that'd be something more in line with what Bedrock could provide you. So if you're still looking for a generative AI solution within your website, you can definitely look into Bedrock and how you can empower that through knowledge bases with your information and put that on your customer facing website. So that's the current solution that you could look at that may be available for you and your website, if that makes sense to your organization. So you're not stuck all the way CDS Global, but if you're looking for that BI quick suite, quick site integration with your website, stay tuned.
Stay tuned, my friend. I'll bookmark this. We'll think about CDS Global when we're live on air and see. Again, I'm sure his current project is super cool. I've been playing around with QuickSuite myself and messing around with some of these like persona type chat agents and doing a little bit of research on what technically constitutes as a Christmas movie and what doesn't. A lot of chatter around this time about whether or not Die Hard is or isn't a Christmas movie. whether Godfather is or is not. It's the top notch research needs to be done, and I have QuickSuite to do that.
As the voice of the people, these are the questions that we need to know, right, Jay?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you haven't played around with QuickSuite, I implore you to do so. I'll leave you with this one, Dalian. I came across this user question around an automation workflow that you, myself, and a bunch of other Amazonians use every day, which is effectively using a quip and a column within that quip and doing some business logic on top of it. And I'm already in here in QuickSuite, specifically within the kind of automation functionality within QuickSuite, trying to figure this out. So if you are user 78533, this user, I'll be responding to you soon because this use case matters most to me. But anyway, I'll come back to you. No one wants to hear me ramble. This has been super cool. Let's bring back the guys.
Bring them back.
Dalian, what do you think?
Happy family. Let's do it.
All right, Jane, Dalian, thank you so much. Hey, you know what? You know how many times as a solutions architect helping the Air Force, I get asked about services. Are they in GovCloud or not? So,
man,
dude, all the time.
You're gonna see. You might not see planning in those ones. That might just be unavailable. Yeah.
I thought it was just one big cumulus cloud where all this stuff lives. Are you telling me there's multiple clouds now? Some sort of commercial plus? This is too much.
Very much so. You're absolutely right. Yes, but that's for another episode.
That's tomorrow's episode or next week, maybe.
That's the next one. And if you do like being in the clouds, hey, it is a wonderful life. So,
I like that. I like
are
that.
we gonna? But that one is a Christmas movie. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I guess our next show is coming up. I think we have some pre-event material for those who are interested. Again, whether you go to Vegas, whether you don't, we're gonna have a lot of content on air covering what I'm sure guys will be like a jam-packed, as always, week in Vegas with a bunch of really, really fun announcements. So I'm super excited.
Never better time to, no need to sit home alone, right? Like get out there, get with the people, and hope to see you at reInvent.
Yeah, we got a link right there up on the screen. If you are interested in registering, go ahead right there. Go for it. Registration is open. And yeah, I'm excited to go back. I think it's going to be my fifth reInvent. So I'm excited.
Oh, man. It's Dalian's first. So we got to heckle him. I don't even know if Dalian's a real person. I've worked with him for 4 years.
That means you're going to the SA and Friends Lotus of Siam dinner on Sunday. So y'all are coming through. I'm forward to you guys that invite. We're gonna have a big happy family meal, I promise.
All right. All right. Yeah, I look forward to it. Like I said, I suspect Dalian may be AI himself, but we'll see. Only time will tell.
Yeah, well, chat was wondering if we were bots. I mean, yeah, I got some circuitry and silicon on me, so yeah, I guess about like 10%, but whatever. That's an argument for another day.
Yeah, I bet my wife would say I'm a bot, but that's like a conversation for another day.
So, Dalian, one of the things that we will absolutely hit on the pre-invent show is you're going to need some good footwear, man, because you're going to be walking.
Yes. Yeah, pro tip for anybody out there watching this. If you do make it to Vegas, please bring walking shoes. Please.
Jeff, I mean, it looks like you're the resident expert with reaching the wall behind you. So I'm gonna take your advice. Send me a link to something that I need to get. So.
Oh man, Jeff and I might be in the queue or trying to get into something right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's coming up. But all right. Last real tip: if you're going to wear retros, which we're all kind of wearing retros, find the insoles that work best for you, so you can walk those 20,000 steps in Vegas. So.
Yeah, you're gonna hate your life if you take the ones off the shelf. Trust me.
Yeah. So. All right, I think that's it, guys. Jane, Dalian, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate what you guys do, add to the show. Adrian, thank you for being my co-host today. Thank you for Francois and Ashish for telling us about QuickSuite. And also, we can't forget Jeff Barr for bringing us the latest and greatest news, what's new with AWS. So anyone else got anything before we say goodbye?
Go out there and start tinkering. The best thing you can do to educate yourself is to get your hands on and start trying to figure some stuff out. You're going to make some mistakes. That's perfectly cool. Last thing you want to do is just sit in the corner and be a Scrooge and complain about everything. Get your hands dirty and let us know what you're going to go build.
Yeah, now's the time of innovation. So many tools to get started. There's no excuse. You can do whatever you want. Your only limitation is your imagination today.
Yeah, and when you do mess up, post on repost and try to get some questions answered.
Come on.
There you go.
We're every Tuesday. We'll take your questions.
Full loop.
All right. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate you checking in with us. Stay tuned to the next one. We got some awesome stuff coming up. November 21st, like we mentioned. It'll be 3 hours of awesomeness. Hope to see you there, and we'll see you next time.
See you guys.
Bye, folks.